Hi everyone, welcome to the first 2025 potato update. So quick little recap. This year I decided to cut down the number of potato plants. Last year's crops were great, but they were overcrowded. While they produced a great yield, I was still hungry for bigger potatoes. So cutting down on the plants were giving the potatoes a much greater room to grow. So from this garden bed in front of us, I went down from 16 plants to 8 plants. Because they have a larger growing space, these potatoes are actually a lot shorter than last year's. When plants are overcrowded, they tend to stretch out, reaching for the sunlight. So as great as last year's crops did look, majority of the leaves were blocked out from the sun. While this year's plants are getting more sunlight towards the entirety of the plant, resulting in shorter plants as they don't need to stretch out. But with the larger growing space and more leaves getting more light, the potato production should have a bump up in yield. So this update video is a bit later than the previous update videos. Because I planted a bit later than usual, some of my potato crops were struggling to grow through the colder days. So my oldest crops in this video have actually reached 90 days, so just 3 months on the dot, while the youngest plants have just reached 50 days. So majority of these are certified seed potatoes. I do have some potatoes that were planted from a previous harvest, but I'll state which ones when we get to that point of the video. But anyway, let's go through each plant starting with this garden bed. So first up we got a white star, which is a main crop variety. It's a white skinned potato with white flesh. This variety yields consistent large tubers. Now this plant isn't too bad, but it is currently looking a bit stressed. I'm hoping it's not stem rot, but in case it is, I should be okay with the yield since it's already been 90 days. Now over here we have a first earlies variety called Rodeo. It's my first time planting this variety, so I'm kinda excited to see what I'll get. It's technically already ready to harvest, so if I wanted to pull it out, I could. I made a mistake though. For some reason I thought this was a large variety, but it isn't. Now onto this next plant occupying a lot of space. This is a main crop variety called Pontiac. This is one of my favorites, along with the white star. This variety can deliver you some large tubers. In 2023, I actually harvested a 740 gram Pontiac potato. So yeah, let's see what this year's Pontiac potatoes deliver for me. It does look smaller on camera only because it's leaning over, but this is definitely one of the big boys of the garden. If I dare to make an estimate right now, this could yield maybe 4, maybe 4.5 if I dare say so. But anyway, let's have a look at the stem size. Now this guy is chunky. But yeah, I'm just happy with the size of the plant. This is what you get when you give them more room to grow. So more room for the roots to grow, as well as the plant getting more sunlight. So the two of those together, you get a bigger, stronger plant with the best potential yield that you can actually get. Alright, so the next potato up is another white star. I think this video is going to be a lot longer than my other one, so bear with me. But I'm actually in love with this plant particularly because this one is probably the biggest single stem white star I have. This is actually a replacement plant because the original one had tiny weak looking sprouts. And because this year I'm giving them lots of room to grow, I wasn't going to settle for a small plant. So I ended up replacing it, and I think it's the best decision I went with because this white star is boasting quite the large leaves. As you can see how massive they are. So yeah, I'm looking forward to what this plant will deliver. Will this deliver me a new personal record? It's got the potential. Also, one of the things about winter, there's always a lot of bat poop on my potato plants. It either dries up or I have to remove it, and I don't want that getting to the soil. I'm not sure if the plants can potentially absorb the virus or diseases in the bat poop, but I'd rather not risk it, so I do want it removed. Anyway, the next plant is another Rodeo. This one is also a replacement. There was 2 replacements in this bed, so it's doing alright. It's not that great, but there are some giant leaves on the other sides, which I'll get to in a bit. And here we are with one of the fused leaflets. This is really... I actually didn't see this for so long. I don't know why I didn't see it. I think that's one of my favorite things about the first few leaves when they're fused. They just turn out as one giant leaflet, and I love it. I mean, size-wise, it does look comparable to the white star, but it just feels smaller. The next plant up is another Rodeo. It's not too bad. It's completely leaned over though. So yeah, the first 3 plants and the last 3 plants in this bed are all 90 days old. So this Rodeo is also technically ready to harvest as well. And onto the next plant, we got another Pontiac over here. This one just as large as the other Pontiac in this bed. It's kind of giving me a Christmas tree kind of vibes because it's kind of like in a cone shape. And this stem is the side shoot of the main plant. So yeah, just like the other Pontiac, it's got a good coverage. And here's a comparison to my 9-liter watering can. So yeah, I'm looking forward to harvesting the 2 Pontiacs in this bed. Also, if you're a new viewer and you're wondering why I'm going over each plant individually and quite slowly as well, I like to treat these potato updates like a diary, because I do look back at it myself for reference and things I can tweak and change for the next year's planting. And I just really love potatoes. It's pretty much my whole YouTube life. Potatoes. I think I have the potato addiction. Yeah. But I think the tops of the plants never get enough appreciation. And onto the last plant of this garden bed, we got a white star. This one's a good plant. It's not big though, but it's boasting very large leaves from top to bottom. I think the potato seeds I received were a bit too small, so this plant only had the potential to grow a certain size, but because of the amount of room, it just sized up those leaves from top to bottom. Yeah, the side facing the sunlight isn't too good. Because of the amount of rain we've been getting, all the slugs and snails have been aiming for those weakened leaves. We're moving into spring, so the sun's heat has been kicking the plants a bit. Anyway, we're done with bed number 1, let's move on to the other beds. And over here with my cornered shaped garden bed, I have 2 plants here, and the big guy is actually my favorite. The potato plant in the thumbnail, that's this one right here. So this plant is a Pontiac as well. I think this one is sitting around 60 days old. But yeah, this guy is boasting quite a robust looking plant. It's got really nice sized leaves from top to bottom. And here's a size comparison with my watering can once again. I'm kind of thankful we haven't had any harsh weather this season so far. It was only at the start of the season where we had high wind alerts traveling between 30 to almost 70 kilometers per hour, which is why most of my oldest plants were leaning over, but the rest of the potato plants grew afterwards because of the delay, so they were able to skip that. The only major issues so far have been a lot of rain, which does help the plants if it's an appropriate amount, of course, but I think given the spacing around these plants, they're able to handle it a bit better. If these were overcrowded like last year's crops, they would be a lot of yellow leaves, all the rain we've been getting this year. But yeah, anyway, this plant has a nice thick stem. I think that's pretty much how it is for a Pontiac. And let's take a second to look at the Pontiac's leaf design and the leaflets. Now onto the second plant in this bed. Now this is a white star. Now this is a replacement as well, but this is actually a transplant replacement. And it's grown pretty well. It's a little bit short, but that's all good. As you can see, the leaves are nice and big. I'm pretty sure I didn't disturb that many roots, but it did take quite some time to regrow again. I was afraid it was going to be a tiny plant, but here we are. It's big and healthy. Now on to the next garden bed. This is the long, slim garden bed, the tallest one actually. I think it's 40 centimeters high. So I have 3 potato plants in here. They should be around 60 days old. But yeah, let's have a look at the first plant. So the first one we are looking at is this Pontiac plant, and this one's surprising me. It's growing bigger day by day. And here's the size comparison to my watering can again. So from the color of the baby leaves, this plant is not finished growing just yet, although it's getting close to full maturity. But I do love the size of the plant. I think it was a slow growing one, that's why I wasn't expecting it to reach this height. So the leaves aren't as big as the other Pontiac plants, but it does have a good length to it. Now onto the second plant. This one is a rodeo. This one's also surprisingly getting large. I don't think I mentioned that in this video yet, but most of the varieties growing are Pontiac, White Star, and Rodeo. since I've given them more space this year, so I wanted to plant the bigger varieties. Except for rodeo, which I made a mistake, but yeah. But anyway, yeah, this plant's looking quite well. Unexpectedly grew a lot of stems too. Maybe it's just the room I'm giving them. I'm getting too many surprises this time around. And looks like we got a crack in the soil here. This only appeared a few days ago, but we'll do a little digging at the end of the video. And onto the last plant in this bed, we have a little white star. This one's a little bit of a disappointment, because it didn't grow that big at all. Like, not even the leaves are that big. But oh well, I'll just have to deal with it. Alright, we're done with that bed, and on to the next one. Now this one actually has my other favorite potato plant. So this bed only contains 2 plants, but as you can see, one of them is kinda huge. So this plant here is a rodeo, and I have no idea why it's gotten this big. Every plant has been treated the same way. I guess this one was a perfect seed with the perfect growing condition, because all the plant and these crops have grown this large. But yeah, this one is my second favorite. The only reason this one's in second place because I like the look of the other one. But I think I can argue this is the biggest plant I've ever grown from a potato. Like, I could just plant this alone in this 100 by 100 garden bed, and it would take up the whole bed. And if we look at the stems, I'm pretty sure these are side stems of the main plant, not stems coming from a different eye. Because this plant did grow weird to begin with. It had a nice sprout breaking through the soil, but for some reason it was like angled, and the plant kinda stopped growing. And then these smaller shoots started to appear, and then the main shoot started to grow normally again. So I don't know what's up with that. But we do have a good sized stem here. And its neighboring plant is a white star. Now this one actually grew decently. All the sprouts are like really tiny, so I wasn't expecting anything good from this one. Looks like the mulch around this plant is slightly raised. A good indication there's lots of tubers around the plant bulking up. And yeah, I didn't plant anything on the back side of this garden bed because it's basically against the fence. I'll end up with some tall plants, but not the greatest of yields. I'd rather leave this space empty so these 2 plants' roots can grow into it. Now let's have a look at the next garden bed. And the same 3 varieties, Pontiac, White Star, and Rodeo. So these guys are a nice large size, but this garden bed gets the least amount of sunlight compared to the rest. So starting with the Pontiac, this is now the largest plant in this bed. So a bit of wilting from the heat wave after a week of rain, that's fine. The Pontiac is still growing, so hopefully it should toughen up within the next week or 2. And next up, the one in the middle is a White Star. This one's alright. And the third plant in this bed is a Rodeo. I actually like the growth on this one. It's a good size, nice large leaves. The funny thing about this plant is it still has fused leaflets even on the more mature leaves. I never had a plant grow like this, so it's kind of interesting. Now onto the last garden bed with potatoes. We have my wooden garden bed here with 2 Pontiac plants. Now I gotta say, these ones are kinda disappointing. They didn't end up growing as large as the other Pontiac plants, and the growth on this bed was extremely slow for some reason. But it's still a decent size either way, just wished it was a bit bigger. So yeah, just like the first garden bed, this one is hilled above the bed. This gives it extra growing room. Now these were hilled during the planting, not after planting. I don't bother hilling my plants anymore, it's something I used to do back then. But when you have a thick layer of mulch applied, you don't have to worry too much about green tubers. And onto the second Pontiac plant, this one had a really weird start. Didn't grow so big, but it eventually recovered. But yeah, it's not one of my best plants this year. And yeah, that's it for the potatoes in the garden beds. We'll do a quick little walkthrough before we get to the potatoes in pots. Alright, now it's time for the potato in pots. Now let's start with these 3 double stacked pots. Now these are part of my main winter crops, meaning these will be harvested with all the potatoes in the garden beds. And anything I don't state as a main potato crop is just a plant harvested separately. Just to clear any confusion, I feel like I confuse people with that. Because you might think it's only main crop type variety potatoes, but when I say main crop of potatoes, I just mean a collection of potatoes I'll be harvesting in one go. But anyway, onto this plant. This one is a Pontiac, but it is not a big plant. The reason I double stack this is to give it a bit more growing room as if it was in a garden bed. But all 3 of these plants in the double stack pots are a lot smaller than expected. Last year's potatoes in pots did a lot better and there was 2 seeds in a pot. Like, it's not even just the height. These guys are genuinely small. Also, the plant we are currently looking at is a rodeo. But yeah, these guys in the double stack pots were one of the last ones to grow. They're only 50 days old. I can argue it may be mole crickets because the soil is weirdly loose. It could also be over fertilization, the way that these guys were that delayed in growing and not even that big, and didn't even turn into a big plant either with the extra growing space. I say over fertilization because if I prepared these pots in advance, I might have added fertilizer already and then forgot about it when I had to plant these potato seeds. Also, the plant we are currently looking at is a white star. This one actually grew decently, so I'm actually happy with this one. But anyway, so then I ended up adding a second round of fertilizer, heavily increasing the salt levels in the soil. So until enough rain washed down the fertilizer, that's when these guys started to grow. So that could have been one of the main reasons. So yeah, I'm particularly not really satisfied with the potatoes in a double stacked pot besides this white star right here. But there's nothing much I can do about it. We'll just make sure to get everything right next year. So white stars don't particularly have a large stem, although I don't remember if they were that much bigger the first time I grew them. So yeah, that's it for the main potatoes in pots. I kinda like the elevation of the double stacked, not gonna lie. I feel like I want to do it for other plants as well. Now onto my other potato plants. So these guys here that are not in a double stacked pot, these guys are my sapphire potatoes. Now I think they're a main crop, but anyways, I grew these from my previous harvest. Now I forgot if this is their 3rd year or 4th year, but I have 4 pots of the sapphire, 3 28-liter pots and 1 50-liter pot. So all the sapphires I grew have a lot of stems to them. The seed potatoes were a bit old, and that kinda tends to happen when they're not in their prime anymore. Either you plant a really large seed, or it could be a smaller seed and just age, so you'll just end up with a lot of sprouts. Because yeah, this one was kind of a small to medium sized seed, but it was quite aged. I wasn't planning to plant it. I just had some spare pots and just went with it. So yeah, this variety in general isn't large, it's more on the small to medium size. But this variety is actually a purple skin potato, a dark purple skin potato. Almost black, like when you dig for this, it's almost hard to find. But it does have this nice white and purple flesh pattern inside. It's got an earthy taste, so it's not the fanciest tasting potato, but it is fancy in appearance. Also, the plant we're looking right now, which is in the 50-liter pot, this one was one big seed. This one was the biggest one I harvested last summer, and just look at the amount of sprouts it has produced. There has to be at least 20 or more. I'll put it on the screen what the potato looked like for this pot. So yeah, this one's gonna grow a bunch of tiny little potatoes, and basically camouflaging in the soil. It makes up for a decent harvest video. I wouldn't say it's the best harvest video because it's so hard to see. But anyway, for all the sapphire plants, that's going to be its own harvest video. So yeah, this is basically what the seed potato looked like. This one's already dried out, but yeah, they're pretty aged. And onto the next sapphire plant. There's nothing really interesting going on with any of them. They're just all multi-sprouted, same height, decent sized leaves. And onto the fourth sapphire plant. This one's probably the smallest one. This one had heavy compacted soil, so it took a little longer to grow compared to the rest. So yeah, that's it for all the potatoes around this area. Alright, moving on to the next set of potatoes. In these 4 pots, we got transplanted potatoes. Now we're halfway through, I can finally say what it is. So for these potatoes, I'm making a video on if you can transplant potatoes and still get a great yield from them. There's already a spoiler alert for this because one of my previous, actually my first white star potato harvest, all of those were transplanted from smaller pots. So if you're interested in seeing that, go ahead. Although it's an older video, so there's no commentary, music's loud, and the video quality isn't as great. But anyway, these are Dutch cream potatoes with 1 white star potato. But so far these plants are doing good. So for the experiment, I have 2 pots with 1 seed and the other 2 pots have multiple seeds in them. So we're just going to see what kind of results we can get. But if we look at my white star over here, it's grown quite good. It's basically the same size as the ones I directly planted. Which goes to show there's nothing wrong with transplanting them. You still get a good sized plant. If we go back to this one, which is directly planted, they're pretty much the same size. And if we go to the transplant in the garden bed, this one's even bigger. And compared to this one directly planted into this garden bed, so yeah, pretty much half of the experiment is shown here. They will grow just as big as a directly planted one. Although the stage of transplanting it, you will just have to wait for the actual video. But we do have some soil cracking from the Dutch cream. Now this is either a second earlies or main crop. And that's it for these potatoes. Now let's look at the warm season potatoes. So pretty much all my potatoes for my summer crop are red. Besides veryyy, it's a pink potato. But yeah, I wanted to label them because pretty much 3 of them look similar. Well, we got 2 red ones are oval and then 1 that is round. But I kind of like this hanging label. I originally placed it in the soil until I saw a hole. But I like this more because you can just grab it from the top and just have a look instead of going through the bottom and finding where that tag is. But yeah, the varieties I planted for summer are Desiree, Ruby Lou, Red Royal, and Red Lady. Oh, and also 1 more, but we'll get to that afterwards. So yeah, these potatoes have just broken through the soil. Well, almost all of them. The Ruby Lou and Red Royal are a little late. And we are done with this area. Now onto my last warm season potatoes. Over here we have King Edwards. And if you didn't see the setup video, I'm actually going to be making a tower with these ones. Those infamous potato towers. Now King Edward is a potato variety that can grow tubers along the stem that's buried. But we're not aiming for bigger production over here. We're going to see where the potatoes grow in the tower along the stem. So yeah, this one's going to be a fun harvest video. We have 3 plants to check out. Although I'm not too confident about these plants, cause these King Edward seeds that I bought were already quite aged, and their chits were quite long as well because I didn't take them out of the bag in time. And I can already tell by the quality, these are kind of tiny, but we should hopefully make it work. And in case this doesn't work out due to the quality of the seed, we can always try this experiment next year. So yeah, the seed potatoes I planted just above the soil of the pot. And one of them I planted above the soil in the pot. So there might be almost no potatoes growing into the pot, but that's okay because we want them to grow in the tower. I'm going to be cutting the bag open and we're going to be seeing how it's grown in all its glory. So I'm hoping to 2-stack these plants at least. Originally I wanted 3, but again the seed quality isn't the best, so that might not be possible. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the warm season potato crops. And over here, these are actually my backup summer potatoes. Just in case there's an issue, I don't want to be planting a new seed potato and have it left behind. So in case I need to transplant one right now, we already have some ready. And we're not done just yet. Over here I have my extra potatoes. These ones I just planted so I can harvest anytime I want, so not specifically for a video. This can kind of feed my impatientness. While I wait for my potatoes growing to full size for YouTube, I have these ones to pick on the side. So the potatoes here are a mix. We got some, I think this one was Dutch cream. We got some royal blues actually. I still had a few left. Then we have a rodeo and a white star. But I'm actually going to be harvesting these in a few days because I am setting up my sweet potatoes. I will start to do sweet potato setup videos from now on. But yeah, I'm missing some pots and yeah, I kind of need them. So these ones are, which are the spare potatoes, and they are free to throw away. We're not throwing them, I'm harvesting them. I'll need the pots for the sweet potatoes this year. If the harvest turns out good, I'll actually upload a shorts harvesting them. But yeah, anyway, let's finally check out all the tubers that are currently growing. So here's a Pontiac from my 90-day plant. This one is growing quite big already. And looks like we have a new baby growing on the side. And this bump over here, we have a rodeo. Now let's look at the white star. This one's from the 90-day-old plant as well as the rodeo. And looks like we have a crack. So this is most likely from the ton of rain we've been getting. And we got another one down here. And here's a Pontiac from a 60-day-old plant. Another Pontiac from the other 90-day-old plant. The rodeo that was breaking through the soil in my long slim garden bed. The white star plant next to my biggest potato plant. Some more white stars. Oh yeah, and an update on the Nadines. I'm no longer planting these ones anymore. So I just realized what was with this one. It's not anything special. It's because it's another brand, so they always have it certified seed potatoes. Like the ones at Bunnings as well, those are certified seed potatoes. But this begs the question, does that mean the seed potatoes Happy Valley Seeds supply themselves aren't certified seed potatoes? So it's not the same brand as the one that Bunnings sells, but yeah, it's basically the same thing. But I don't even have any room to plant these anyway, so yeah. So preparing for my sweet potatoes this year, we're going to be trying a few different things. So I'm going to be planting a few potatoes with a sand mix. Probably a 50% sand mix or maybe 30%, but yeah. And we're going to see how clean the results are. Because usually the potatoes are dirty and I don't wash them, so they stay dirty. So with the sand mix, I actually want to see how clean they come out. So yeah, I'm going to be mixing washed sand, make sure you get washed, which is safe for plants, and propagating sand, which is a bit larger. I'm also going to be growing a few sweet potatoes in a tower-like structure. So not like with normal potatoes where you add soil growing up. This one I'm already going to make the tower and then plant the slip at the very top. Because I want to see and get like a really long sweet potato root. We'll see how long they can get. I'm planning to triple stack the pot. So yeah, we're going to have a few fun harvest videos coming up for these. So here's all the sweet potatoes I still currently have. So we're not cooking them every single day, but we've cooked a decent amount. But I've given a lot out to friends already, and we still have a lot to eat. I still have my 2 orange giant sweet potatoes. The purple ones, they just rotted away. I think the purple ones, I'm just going to store them away in soil. I think that's the best way to keep them. Because yeah, I've been losing a lot of purple sweet potatoes. It doesn't matter if it's the giants or the small ones, just the purple ones. But everything else has been good. The orange ones have been great, the white ones store great as well. But yeah, if you haven't watched this giant sweet potato harvest, I highly recommend it. It's probably going to be one of the best harvest videos you'll ever see. Not to brag, but I guarantee you it's going to be a fun watch. So yeah, have a watch if you haven't checked that out yet. And don't forget, I'll have a sweet potato prep video coming up, so look out for that. Anyways, that's the end of this video. Sorry if that went a bit too long. I do like to individually analyze each of my potato plants. I am a little bit obsessed with them if you haven't noticed yet. But at least you know I'm very passionate about growing them. So I have been growing potatoes for quite a number of years, but before I started my YouTube channel, I would just watch a lot of potato harvest videos, especially when it's close to the harvest period. So yeah, I want to harvest some good potatoes for entertainment, and I'll always be doing potato experiments as well. See if we can trial new ways or attempt something that hasn't been shown yet. I have quite a few ideas lined up, but they're going to be spread out throughout the years. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. It's crazy. It's nuts. Here we go.